Sometimes a clue looks so convincing that you follow it without question, only to discover later that it was never pointing to the real answer at all. In mysteries, debates, and everyday conversations, there's a name for that kind of misleading distraction: a red herring. But the phrase itself raises a strange question. Why do we call a distraction a red herring? What does a smoked fish have to do with leading someone away from the truth? The answer turns out to involve strong smells, historical storytelling, and the moment a very ordinary fish became a powerful metaphor for misdirection. Let's take a closer look at why we call a misleading clue a fish, right here, on History of Simple Things. A red herring is not a special species of fish. It is simply a common herring that has been preserved through heavy smoking or curing. In earlier centuries, herring was an important food source across northern Europe and Britain, and preserving fish was necessary because fresh catches spoiled quickly. Smoking helped the fish last longer while also changing its appearance. The curing process turned the shiny silver fish a darker reddish color, which is how the term red herring originated. The smell was just as distinctive. Traditional smoking methods created a strong odor that lingered easily in the air and on surfaces. Long before the phrase became a metaphor, people simply knew red herrings as preserved fish that were dark in color and impossible to ignore once you caught their scent. The smell of a red herring was more than noticeable. Before refrigeration, preserved fish often had a powerful scent that spread easily and lingered for a long time. People who handled smoked fish quickly realized how strong the odor could be compared to other nearby smells. Because of that, a red herring could easily overpower other scents in the area. This made it easy to imagine how the fish might interfere with scent trails or confuse animals that relied heavily on smell. Even if it was not commonly used for that purpose, the idea made sense to people familiar with the fish. Over time, the connection between the strong-smelling fish and the idea of overpowering another trail helped lay the groundwork for the metaphor of distraction. One explanation that became widely known suggests that red herrings were used when training hunting dogs. According to the story, trainers dragged the fish along the ground to create a scent trail for young hounds to follow. Some versions even claim the fish was used to cross over the scent of animals, like foxes, forcing the dogs to stay focused on the correct trail instead of becoming distracted. Although the story is repeated often, historians have found little clear evidence that this was a common training technique. The explanation may have spread because it creates such a vivid image. Whether or not it happened regularly, the picture of a strong-smelling fish crossing a trail and confusing trackers helped people understand how something could lead others away from the right path. The phrase became widely known through the work of a journalist named William Cobbett. In 1807, Cobbett wrote an article criticizing newspapers for spreading misleading information and distracting the public from real issues. To illustrate his point, he told a story from his youth in which a red herring was used to distract hunting dogs from a hare's trail. His goal was not to describe hunting, but to show how easily people can be led away from the truth when something attention-grabbing crosses their path. The comparison was simple and memorable, and readers quickly understood the metaphor. Because Cobbett's writings were widely read in Britain at the time, the phrase began appearing more often in public discussions. Over time, red herring came to describe any misleading clue or argument that pulls attention away from the real subject. As the phrase spread, its meaning gradually expanded beyond the original story. By the mid-19th century, red herring was commonly used as a metaphor for any clue or argument that misleads people or sends them in the wrong direction. The term became especially popular in detective fiction, where writers often use misleading hints to build suspense. A piece of evidence might strongly suggest that a certain character is responsible for a crime, encouraging readers to believe they have solved the mystery. As the story continues, however, the clue turns out to be irrelevant or misleading. When that happens, the supposed evidence is revealed to be a red herring because it distracted attention from the real solution. Today, the phrase red herring is used far beyond mystery fiction. In debates and discussions, it often refers to a tactic that shifts attention away from the main issue. Someone might introduce an unrelated argument, an emotional example, or a dramatic claim that distracts from the original question. The expression also remains common in books, movies, and television, where misleading clues help maintain suspense and keep audiences guessing. Viewers and readers enjoy trying to solve puzzles, and red herrings make the process more engaging and unpredictable. Because of this, the phrase has become a widely recognized way to describe anything that diverts attention from the real point or the truth. What began as a strongly smoked fish eventually became one of the most recognizable metaphors for distraction. The red herring's dark color and powerful smell helped inspire stories about scent trails and misdirection, and writers like William Cobbett turned that image into a memorable comparison. Over time, the phrase spread into everyday language, where it now describes clues, arguments, or ideas that lead people away from the real issue. Today, when someone points out a red herring, they are recognizing something that appears important but ultimately sends us in the wrong direction. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.